run through some WCO framework and standards that are in place for cross-border e-commerce. So WCO outlines some key areas and steps to cover e-commerce types of scenarios and situations. So maybe I'll invite you to focus on the orange boxes on the left on the screen. So basically it involves capturing advanced data so that it can facilitate risk management. Of course, this is based on certain standards such as the CN22 or CN23 post or parcel types of shipments that cover these data models. So this facilitates basically advanced data acquisition and risk assessment. Next is in terms of facilitating and simplification of procedures. So e-commerce being high in volume and the value of the goods would also be quite low, could be quite low. Typically, what would happen is that all these types of goods are consolidated and going through a normal declaration could be an arduous process to cover these types of shipments. Hence, WCO recommends a facilitation of this e-commerce types of shipments through simplification procedures. So this could be an expansion of, the AEO types of programs where we accredit certain e-commerce platform providers so that they can be part of this program, and they could have, simplified data that could be submitted and expedited clearance process due to the time critical nature in terms of e-commerce products as well, and especially the volume. Next is fair and efficient revenue collection. So if we have lack of data or clarity to perform risk assessment as well as the knowledge of the goods, then proper revenue collection could also not be in place, and this could lead to potential revenue leakages. So WCO actually outlines certain standards for this as well. So safety and security is one that I covered as well earlier. So advanced information, advanced acquisition of information would facilitate this, and of course, would address certain safety and security related concerns. So the second, the column here basically covers the technical considerations or what could be implemented through the solution. I will not go through in detail, but also it involves having a framework or a policy related considerations that also need to support the implementation of such a framework as well. So we have put those down here on this slide as well. So moving on, maybe I'll quickly run through this. So it also involves partnerships between various stakeholders, such as the vendors on the e-commerce platforms. It could involve all these players coming together and submitting information. So like the Amazon could be providing the parcel or a sort of a simplified kind of a data model, submission of data related to that shipment. So for them to be part of this framework. And of course, acquisition of data and all could facilitate analytics and business intelligence. And of course, last but not least, we would need kind of a public awareness and outreach for capacity building to implement such a program. So I think without further much ado, let me just cover some of the key problems that potentially would be faced due to e-commerce types of shipments. So if we look at customs, what are the key problems is that clearance process could be inefficient or a bit slower because of the high volume. And it may not be a streamlined process if we are adopting the traditional methods of clearance. And of course, due to consolidation of goods, there could be limited visibility, and this would then be an impediment for proper risk assessment and duty calculation as well. And if we are handling e-commerce cargo as normal cargo, of course, this would not be scalable as well. So for the business community, what would this entail? So the typical single windows may not facilitate bulk submissions for high volume e-commerce shipments. And the data models that are available may not be simplified, and they would be quite a lot of data requirements to fulfill if for e-commerce types of shipments. And of course, another point is the last one is there could be an inability to leverage data that is already available in e-commerce platforms. So this data, may not could not be reused. If there's a way we could actually reuse this data, this could facilitate the clearance process, the risk assessment process, and bringing in the goods and facilitate trade overall at a national level. In this slide, maybe I'll just summarize. On the left, you would see current challenges. So these points were covered, in some essence in the earlier slides. So this involves, covering, doing declarations or clearing goods through the traditional methods. This could be slower, and of course, the potential revenue leakage that I outlined earlier. So that's the third point on the left. And of course, customs or the OGAs might have to resort to higher rates of inspection to ensure that counterfeit or goods in question are not brought into the country. And of course, e-commerce goods could actually restrict due to non-involvement of OGAs as well. So this is something that we would cover also in the demonstration that we will do later in this presentation. And of course, as what Solomon pointed out, as e-commerce volume grows, more and more stakeholders would be looking towards bulk submissions to facilitate this high volume of goods that will be coming in. And due to the nature of the exponential growth of e-commerce goods being transacted worldwide, right? So on the right of this slide, basically it just outlines some of the pain points that our solution actually addresses. So of course, the first point addresses visibility and traceability because of acquisition of data through a streamlined process. And of course, something that is tailor-made to suit e-commerce types of shipments. And of course, this facilitates a risk assessment, and risk assessment could actually start much earlier on in the process of this entire goods being brought into the country, where it could even start much earlier, even before the goods reach the borders. And of course, we have e-commerce specific risk assessment indicators that are built into the solution. And of course, customs and OGAs can regulate this entire process by performing risk assessment and appropriate check mechanisms to be in place, basically. And of course, yeah, revenue leakage is something that can be addressed, and it will basically facilitate stakeholders that are part of these e-commerce operations to be part, to actually provide information through this platform and basically facilitate trade on a national level, right? So in terms of value proposition, one is a proven solution that we have. We have implemented something similar in North America for e-commerce types of shipments. Better and efficient. This is in terms of having a streamlined process, a simplified process of clearing e-commerce goods and handling e-commerce shipments. Agility and empowerment, this is basically to handle current challenges. So the need to adapt to cover e-commerce types of shipments and the traditional methods which may not be as effective. So that's what the solution actually addresses. And of course, the solution is based on international standards adhering to WCO best practices. So next, we have a couple of slides in terms of the CBEC solution, the cross-border e-commerce solution, before we go into a demonstration. Maybe I'd just like to pause at this juncture to check in case there's any questions from the audience. Okay, I'll just continue on then. In case there's any questions, please feel free to stop me. So this slide outlines a high-level process flow of basically the physical flow as well as the data flow of the goods. So you have end customers who would interact with the e-commerce platforms to make orders and make payments and track their goods. The e-commerce platforms or vendors would process the customers' orders and prepares the goods for to be shipped out basically. Then the other parties would be involved. The next party would be the logistics service providers or the brokers who would have their respective in-house systems to handle all these operations in terms of arranging transportation, submitting whatever regulatory data to the authorities, payment of duties and taxes, and finally the authorities itself would need to process such declarations, perform the appropriate inspections, collection of duties and taxes before giving the clearance. And this would also involve the other government agencies as well, such as KEBS. So in terms of physical flow of goods, of course, simplified flow is the logistics facilities is where the goods would be dispatched from, going through the appropriate mode of transport where the LSPs arrange such transportation of those goods. And the goods received in the target country, and then of course the last mile delivery where the goods get delivered to the customer. So based on this e-commerce process, we see the different stakeholders who could actually interface or interact with the e-commerce solution. So on this slide, you would see the TFP cross-border e-commerce platform, which is for businesses to interact. And then we also have the component for customs and OGAs as well. And then, of course, at the bottom, you have the customs systems itself. And so here you would see there's scenario 1, 2, and 3. For end customers, they could interact with the application to submit information to clear the goods directly, or it could come from the vendors itself or the e-commerce marketplaces such as Amazon, where they could, there are two scenarios. So one is they are already an accredited a vendor who could enjoy certain benefits of like akin to a AEO program where clearance could be done in a simplified or faster manner based on certain levels of trust that is done based on accreditation. So that's scenario 2. It also facilitates vendors who may not participate in such a accreditation program where they could still provide information that would facilitate early data acquisition and risk assessment. Or it could also be the other stakeholder that would need to be involved is also the freight forwarder or the logistics service provider, be it through accreditation or non-accreditation, similar to the e-commerce platform vendors. So I have another slide that covers a different rendition of the earlier slide as well, maybe to map out what are the activities that are performed by the different stakeholders. So in terms of the first scenario, the customer could use a mobile application to make a self-declaration or come to the website to do the declaration itself and make certain payments or duties and taxes payments, as well as getting the goods cleared. Or it could be a scenario where end customers make the orders, but it's the platform vendors who actually take on this together with the LSPs. So if, let's say, the platform vendor is an accredited provider by a certain program in the country, they would submit their orders to customs for the early data acquisition and risk assessment. They would also need to submit certain accounting related information for duties and tax payments. And then, of course, they would need to have some kind of a facility to pool HS codes, so on and so forth, in case they need to collect duties and taxes, right? And of course, the LSPs would be involved in submitting the actual CN22 or 23 types of information. We have a specific e-commerce type of a data model that we have in place in the solution, and they could submit those information and arrange for clearance. So in comparison, for scenario 3 is just a non-accredited platform vendor. So certain actions are not provided by the platform vendor. So they just provide certain information and accounting data, but the actual duties and payments is in this scenario taken on by the service provider. So this is just to give you a sense of the different flavors of how the e-commerce regime can be implemented and how the different stakeholders would be involved in the entire process. Of course, this needs to be mapped out for in Kenya's context, and this is something that we will work together with yourself, the Kentrade team, and KEBS and customs, for example. So here, to give you an overview on some of the key major functions, these will be sort of covered in the demonstration that will follow. So it involves declaration, submission, registration, submission of accounting data, having an e-commerce program defined, making payments, duties and taxes, facilitating integration, and so on and so forth. So on the right, you would see certain functions for the customs module that we also have, and also for OGA processing as well. In terms of risk assessment, defining risk alerts, how that verification process can happen, being involved in the inspection process as well. So some of these elements I would cover in the demonstration subsequently. So this basically just maps out the major functions in a pre-clearance, clearance, and post-clearance stage, and how the different the e-commerce or marketplace vendors would be involved and what types of activities they would perform. So I think I will skip this slide, so because these would be sort of covered in the demonstration as well. So before we go into the demonstration, this is a flow in terms of how data would flow from the different stakeholders right up through the CBEC application to customs. So on the left, you would see shippers or vendors. They could submit online through the system, through the portal, or it could be through a mobile application to the Kenya single electronic window, in which this CBEC module could be part of. If let's say there are certain vendors who would need system integration where they would want to push their data in their own formats, then we also have a facility. So Callista is one of our services that can be leveraged upon by the business community to facilitate this integration where they can churn out data from their platforms, and this service would then help them to transform the data into a format that is consumable by the CBEC application and pushing it across through system integration. So here it's a conceptual or logical view in which you see the CBEC application, which is used by the trader. There's a messaging gateway that would do perform the integration with the target system, which could be the Kenya Revenue Authority's the custom system. And of course, another key component is the TFP CBEC application for OGAs as well, to do process the submissions basically. Any questions on this slide thus far?
Joy, have any questions for your team?
None from me so far, unless there's a question from KEBS.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe I can ask. Hello.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes. My question is on the bit on the shippers and the vendors, because we realize that I could order my goods maybe on Amazon, and then I need to hand them over to a consolidator for the shipping to be done. So I don't know how is that integrated. Is it the shipper, or who is going to actually do the filling online? Is it the person who is buying the goods, or is it the person doing the consolidation? Thank you.
So one of the approaches that could be done is, let's say if we take scenario 2, so the end customer would perform the purchasing on the online platform, but it could be the vendor who takes part in a accreditation program. They are accredited by the authority, and they have some kind of a submission where they could submit to the platform, and this could be done through integration, or we also have a bulk upload type of a feature where a simple Excel could be filled up with all the different commodities, items, details on the parcels, and such information could be submitted to the platform. And thereafter, this would then be submitted on to the CBEC application, and then the OGAs could then look at this information to perform the risk assessment and so on and so forth. And of course, this could also involve the customs as well. So if I invite you to look at the platform vendors, they could submit the data to the CBEC platform. Maybe accounting related information could also be submitted, and duties and payments could be taken on by themselves as well. And of course, this would entail that they would need to make certain calculations and get this incorporated into the amount that is charged to the customer as well. So this is one way this could actually happen. And when the actual goods are actually scheduled to depart and all this, the parcel related information could also be submitted by the logistics service provider to arrange for customs clearance. So even before the goods arrive at the borders, the information that is submitted by the platform vendor or the logistics service provider could be used for risk assessment by the OGAs and the customs authorities. Does that give you a clearer picture? I hope I've answered your question.
Hello.
Do you have any further clarifications or any follow-up questions?
I think not from me, but I'm taking some notes. Maybe once I see the demonstration, I can probably request for clarification. I think we can proceed for now.
Okay. So before I just go on into the demonstration, maybe a quick overview in terms of the data model that we have put in place in the e-commerce solution is based on the WCO recommended data model that incorporates CN 2223 types of data elements, as well as our experience in the US implementation, where we have, in US they have a section 321 for e-commerce types of shipments that involves, they have a declaration that covers type 86. And we have incorporated these elements to come up with a e-commerce data model to basically acquire this data in this particular format. So this is just a snapshot in terms of the different standards process, the standards that we are actually leveraging on. So maybe now I'd like to go on into a demonstration. So on this slide, apologies, on this screen, you would see I've logged into our trial environment of the e-commerce application. And here on the left panel, you would see various menu panes and options available. I'll go through them. So on this dashboard, you would see, metrics such as the total transactions, the clearance times, and so on and so forth. These are portlets that can be defined, and they are configurable based on the requirements of the customer. It can be set up accordingly. There are also other types of visualizations, such as how many parcels per month and based on the transport mode. Other visualizations such as number of submissions per LSP by month. So such types of metrics we have out of the box kind of visualizations that we can be configured. So first, in terms of parcel information, let me navigate through to the create parcel information. So this is where the information is basically submitted to the application. It could be done by the end user, by the LSP or the platform vendor, and there are different methods in which the information can be provided. So I'm going to demonstrate a few. So one is in terms of creating a parcel. So this is an online form where the user can actually click on them and then go through and key in certain information, required information to submit to customs. So here you would see some of those items or those submissions that have already been done to the system, and they are in different statuses. So you could see submitted, they could be in draft or in ready for inspection, so on and so forth. So a user, when they click create parcel, it will navigate to another screen to actually allow the user to key in the information. So for the purposes of the demo, I have pre-created a draft so that I do not have to key in all the details one by one. So I'm just going to search for a draft that I have created. So this is something that just before the before the session, I have created that. And here you could see, the information is in view mode. I will go into an edit mode. So basically, this is how the screen would look like, where if let's say it's going to be keyed in through the screen, there are information on the account, the shipment, the schedule in terms of the vessel voyage, who are the parties involved, what is the BL. The user can key in this information and then continue on. So now there's a feature to actually provide supporting documents. So in this case, an invoice has been attached. So all the user would need to do is just drag and drop an invoice to be submitted together with this application. Then there's a provision to enter details in terms of the commodities, the HS code, and some information on the weight and value. And finally, after all the information is keyed in, there's a review stage where the information could be reviewed. And any edits or supplement enrichment can be done, and then it can be submitted. So at this juncture, when the submission is done, this would be submitted to the authorities to take action. So this could be requiring the OGA intervention, or it'll be routed to customs to perform their risk assessment and so on and so forth. So maybe going back to the parcel information, there's also a bulk parcel upload feature that we have. So this is where the user would not need to be keying in all this information because of the high volume nature of transactions for e-commerce. We have a feature. Let me just open the template up. So here we have defined a template. Apologies. Yep. So here we have a template where, the parcel header. So multiple lines could be easily added on by the user just by copying things through Excel itself and then editing the information. And it covers the information that was actually keyed in earlier through the UI, basically. So this involves all the parcel related info, the party related info, the BL related info, even the items. So all these information could be filled up and prepared. And after that, it could be uploaded onto the application. So here, I'm going to show a upload parcel where multiple items can be uploaded. So I'm just going to drag and drop this Excel file that I showed you earlier. And I just click upload. And what would happen is the information would then be processed by the application. And then here you see you get a multi-reference number. Multi-reference number, because there are multiple parcels, they would be segregated accordingly. And here this has been processed, what I submitted earlier. So just to demonstrate what has been uploaded, there was a this upload has a reference number. I could go into parcel tracking to actually review the information that was uploaded through the filter basically. And here you see earlier in the you would see there are 4 parcels basically, and these parcels have been created based on this particular reference. So here are the parcel numbers on this column. So multiple entries have been created. So this could facilitate, I mean, in this example, I'm just showing 4. This could facilitate like very high volume number of parcel shipments through an upload kind of a facility. So for example, the last item, if you could see there are 2 items within this parcel. So the user could actually click on this and to see that this information has been created automatically by the application through that processing. Okay, next, maybe there's another option that I wanted to show as well. So I've showed you through the UI, through a bulk upload as well. And now I'm going to show how a system could actually submit multiple information. So we have a API that could be exposed. So this API could be used by applications to actually push across information. So I'm using Postman here to demonstrate how to simulate how the payload would be prepared by the application. So here, I mean, it's a bit technical, bear with me. So it involves information in terms of the parcel header, you know, the party, all this information. Similarly, what was in the Excel, all this information in this format can be prepared by the system, and then it could be sent to a URL. And this, what would happen is this gets processed by the system. Apologies, my authentication has expired. So I'll just have to do an authentication. Okay, I think there's something wrong with my setup basically. But essentially what would happen is this e-commerce parcel information that I prepared earlier would then be submitted to the application, and this would create an entry in the system. I have actually created something just before the presentation. So let me just navigate through to that to show you. So I'm searching for a declaration that was submitted through the API. So here you would say API. So this is a reference number that was given when the API submission is successful. And then similarly, so this is another approach in which information can be provided to the application. So there are 3 methods that I have shared. So one is through the UI, one is through a bulk upload, and the other being API as well. So there's also a feature for you to track all your parcels. So there's reference numbers that are provided, let's say a provisional number or declaration number after it's accepted. So there are various features for you to filter the information and look at the submissions. So besides this, what I'd like to share next is in terms of the clearance. So here, let's say after the submission was done, this would be routed to the OGA or the customs for processing. So after this is done and the risk assessment is done, and then thereafter there's certain goods that are flagged for inspection. to the end user, this would come up under the inspection facilitation feature. So under this feature, here, through the different modes of transport, here for air transport, there are 7 that's pending inspection basically. So this basically lists out all those that are ready for inspection. So you could see here, so the the user or the LSP could then navigate through this to actually facilitate this inspection to indicate where would they want their goods to be inspected basically. So once the processing is done, the inspection is done, it'll come up here, and then what the LSP or the vendor would need to do is to confirm and then indicate, okay, for all these shipments that have been flagged for inspection, what is the location that I would want to get the goods to be inspected at? And this could be defined in the system. And then the user would then need to just choose the appropriate and then do a submission. And this would flag up at the respective OGA or the customs authorities to perform the inspection basically. So yeah, so of course, in this example, there are multiple inspection pending. There could be 100 shipments and only 5 could be flagged for inspection. And those 5 would be reflected here for the LSP or the vendor to intervene and to get this facilitated inspection so that the goods could be cleared. Maybe something else that maybe I'd like to share is the order message. So earlier what we saw was the parcel information submission. So maybe navigating back to the slides earlier. So here is the parcel submission here. There's also order information that can be submitted by platform vendors. And this could also be used much earlier when the order is placed itself to perform certain risk assessment as well. So for this also, there's a order message. So this could be submitted through APIs as well. And we have a provision, to submit all these through the order message. So here I have done a submission earlier. So this order has multiple items and this was submitted. And then once it's submitted, we have a reference number that is given here through this could be done through API integration. So here, we could just do a filter and then you could see this information there that has been submitted. And this basically entails information on the order, the consignee, the item related details. So it includes the weight and then the value of the goods, but it may not contain information such as the HS code, so on and so forth. So that's in terms of submitting orders. There is maybe what else I could show is in terms of maybe I'll cover the e-commerce program. So this is what I covered earlier in the slides in terms of accreditation to accredit certain vendors and to give them a certain tier of trust so that they could have facilitated with easier clearance, a streamlined process. So such programs can be actually defined in this application. And then that could involve the company related details, what are the type of transaction, who are the contact people, and whatever relevant information necessary to be captured and keyed in and to be submitted so that this could be evaluated by the authorities to admit a certain vendor or a LSP to be part of this program. So that can also be done through the application. Maybe what I have not covered is in terms of the arrival notice. So this is where there is also provision to indicate, submit certain information on when the goods actually arrive into the borders. So this can also be submitted through the API. So this API, there's basically a payload that the submitter would need to adhere to, and they could do a submission, and then this information would be submitted to the application. And here the arrival related information will be captured, and this would then be used to notify the relevant stakeholders basically. Maybe one more item that I would want to show is in terms of account information. So this is to for the platform operators to submit, or the LSPs to submit accounting related data, where this could be submitted on a monthly basis, or so on and so forth, whatever that is defined, and this can be configured. So there is a format as well that we have, and all the user would need to do is click, like for example, they would want to submit some accounting related information for all the goods that was brought in by them, let's say for the month of October, and then they would need to drop in a file. And this file, we also have a format here. Basically captures information on the parcels, and then some information on the amounts, and also the parcel related information. So these are sort of the information that can be provided by the vendor, and then uploaded into this through this feature. And they could just do a submission. So what would happen is the system would then process the information, and it would go into a reconciliation process. So the reconciliation process is basically whatever parcels that have been submitted earlier would then be reconciled with the information that is submitted in terms of the accounting data, and all the reconciliation that needs to happen is flagged here. So it would say that if, let's say, there are certain things that is not matched, then it would require the vendor to go in, review the information, and then probably say that, okay, what is the discrepancy, and if the user acknowledges the discrepancy, and so on and so forth. So such types of features to facilitate the payment duties collection is also available. So with that, I think I've covered most of the items in terms of application for the end customer, or the LSP, or the vendor, how information can be submitted to the system, and how the system would then pass on this information to the downstream systems or the authorities. Maybe at this juncture, I'd just like to pause and check in case there's any questions so far before handing it on to the next. Any questions so far?
Yes, maybe I can ask some few questions, because unfortunately I have to leave this meeting and join another one, but I didn't want to leave before I seek some clarifications. And just before I ask my questions, I would like to just state that at KEBS we have two processes that I think will be key in this process, and one of them is the issue of the courier services. We have a provision for courier parcels. We also have a provision for consolidated cargo that I think will well be catered by this particular service. I appreciate what Kentrend and Crimson Logic are trying to do. I think it's a step in the right direction. But having said that, those two processes have limitations, and one of them is on the, for example, for courier cargo, for courier cargo, there's a limit of half a million Kenya shillings. That's about it's about $5,000. So I don't know whether this system will be able to cater for those scenarios, such that if I'm doing my order and the value goes maybe beyond $5,000, it can sort of automatically redirect whoever is generating the order to, go through the inspection process. That is my first question. My other question would be, I've seen somewhere, I think when Mohammed was presenting on the slides, that there is a provision where the person doing the order is supposed to read the chess codes. I know majority of the people will not know what chess codes are applicable, and I don't know whether that may bring an issue when you doing clearance in case you put the wrong HS code. And also, is there a way of bringing in clearing agents somehow such that I can do part of the order, then it's completed, maybe by a professional who knows how to do, the customs declarations. The other thing I can ask is about I just wanted to know how practical it works from when I'm doing the order, maybe on Amazon or Alibaba. How does this system, CBEC, how does it actually get that data from maybe Amazon? Or do I fill using the means I've seen, or is a way of getting the data directly from these online retailers? I think you can respond to that. Thank you.
Maybe to answer maybe I'll navigate through to the slide earlier in terms of the scenarios. In terms of the HS codes that you mentioned, so this could be covered by the LSP or freight forwarder, where they need to submit parcel declarations. So this information can be provided at this juncture. As you rightly pointed out, maybe the platform vendors may not have data in terms of HS classifications, right? So for those, that could be done by there's a provision to provide order information. So this may not contain HS information here by the platform vendors. But when the LSP needs to provide the parcel information, so that is one of the fields that is part of the data model that needs to be provided. And with that information, then I think the risk assessment could happen appropriately based on the HS code. In terms of the order information, where this level of information, the HS code may not be available. So there could be e-commerce types of risk assessment that could be done based on whatever information that is available. So this may exclude the HS code, but it may involve certain keywords that could be checked, or certain any other parameters that could be checked as well. So that's in terms of the HS code.
Wes, let me chip in there.
Sure, please.
Actually, we also have a provision for the HS code. We have something called accreditation, accredited platform, right? So through this, when the vendors are accredited, that means they have the capability to actually pull the HS information and map it to the products that they sell on their vendor on their platform. So if you look at the fourth box here, it also has this capability of providing HS and duty information, okay, to the platform, so that they are able to upfront collect the duty and also provide the relevant HS code or any other information that is needed for the either customs or the OGAs, the partner government agencies, to identify what product it is. Yeah, I just wanted to add that. Yeah, go ahead, Vice.
Thanks, Solomon.
Okay, regarding the first question on the amount range, right? I think you highlighted. So this can be done from our risk engine, wherein we can actually create a risk rule. Then based on the risk rule, right? The amount range is more than this. Then we can actually direct this to a red line, which requires the inspection. Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay,
All those are well
okay.
answered. I just wanted there's one more where I was asking about, because I've seen the vendor is sort of filling the details on the system. I wanted to know if there's a provision from the online retailers, for example, Amazon, Alibaba, where the system could be pulling that directly, because we know that the moment the vendors start filling the details, there are chances of missing declaration or even concealment. So is there a way of getting this data directly from the online retailers? Thank you.
Yeah, let me respond to that. Yes, actually, that's the whole intention, where the front end that you saw just now, the demonstration was made, that is only for exceptional cases. Most of the information for the e-commerce, as we all know, is very voluminous, right? So all the data will be actually gotten or acquired through integrations. We have, I think we just covered that we have this e-commerce gateway where then these platform vendors can be connected to this and send in the order information as soon as the customer, their end customer places the order on their platform. Yeah, I
Okay,
hope.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yes. I think I'm actually well answered.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have to leave this meeting to join another one, which is already underway. But I've seen that Mr. Patrick Kipto is in this meeting. He has joined. He's our acting officer in charge at JKI, and I know he handles most of these products. So I don't know whether Kipto, if you are in, I would like to hand over to you so that you can coordinate the team and maybe request for anything. Kipto, can you hear me?
Yes, Mwendwa, thank you. I can hear you.
Yes. Kindly lead the KEBS discussions.
Yep.
Because I have to leave and join another meeting, kindly.
Okay. I was a bit
kindly.
behind, but I know as we progress, I'll be able to grasp and understand the topic.
Yes,
Thank
but it's about the basically handling the system will be handling the the e-commerce goods, and I know most of them pass through your station.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem, Leonard.
Okay. Thank you, team, and have a fruitful deliberations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know now how far are we? Are we almost or?
Actually, actually, that's what I wanted to share today in terms of
Yes.
the concept as well as the demonstration. The team is happy to accept any further questions, or we can clarify any other doubts you may have.
Yeah.
I think Kentrade team, I think would like to know what are the next step after this. I think Joy, you can also check with Billy, and you can also raise for any further questions. We can still answer those questions over email, or if you want a short discussion, that is also possible.
Yes.
Solomon, actually, what is the next action point for Kentrade?
I think as Billy mentioned, we will also have to do this session with the other OGAs as well, which Billy said he will arrange. And then once we present the solution to all the OGAs, then we can work on the next set of activities. If we could engage KRA, then that will be great.
Yeah.
Can also do this same session to KRA. And then we will be having a pilot demo site, not demo, a pilot site, a trial site. We will let all the OGAs and even the a few pilot stakeholders identified to actually use the system and play with the system.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Okay. I think Joy, you can discuss with Billy and just share us the schedule for the other OGAs or PGAs. I think we can position KRA first. I think then we can get some inputs. So through that, it will be helpful for other agencies too. I believe that way.
Yes, that's in order. We have actually already sent out the letter to KRA, so we're just waiting for feedback. they were to let us know when would be the appropriate day for them. So
Okay,
I think we'll get feedback at the end of this week.
So who are the other agencies actually, Joy? I mean, just curious. Other than KRA?
No, for now, we had sent out the letters to KRA and KEBS only, because these are our major stakeholders. And then from there, then now we'll be able to proceed with the schedule as you had sent earlier.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's majorly the presentation was to KRA and KEBS.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Salam.
Okay, I think that, that's it from the KEBS Logic team. I wish to really thank the KEBS team for giving us the time. Hopefully, the solution is that will address all your pain points. If you have any other challenges or pain points at the moment in clearing your e-commerce related cargo and consignments, please feel free to let us know, and we will see how we can address it to further engagements with you. Thank you.
Yeah, Salam, just want to add, I think Kentrade team, I think I will be there next week with the project team. I think if we can have a meeting with KRA during that time would be better. So any face-to-face discussion also we can have it actually.
Okay, yeah, sure. We'll try to schedule as much as possible when you guys are there, including maybe we can have KEBS also there.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you. I think if there are no further questions, we can end there for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
all.
very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a good day.